Amazing. And on that first record, you did a lot of the singing. How did it come to be that you were singing Nowadays and Flying on the Ground is Wrong and a couple of the other Neil tunes?
Yeah, you know, everybody kind of thought Neil had this different voice, and it was a different voice, but that's what made it unique, and that's what makes Neil Neil, and all. But you know, they figured, okay, they've got me in the band now. What are they going to do with me? So they let me sing a couple of his songs, and I was really happy to do it. I actually did them in a medley from that first album, "Flying on the Ground Is Wrong." Uh, Nowadays, Clancy Can't Even Sing, and "Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It," which I really feel should have been the first Buffalo Springfield single release. I think Atlantic made a big mistake by not releasing that song. I think it was so much more accessible than Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing,
Mhm.
which is kind of esoteric. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
the lyrics are kind of obscure, and the going from the 3/4 to the 4/4, I think it was a little too complicated. But boy, do I have to come right out and say it. Anyway, that's just my take on it. But it was so funny when Buffalo Springfield got together for our reunion about, I don't know, when was it? Maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago now. We did a reunion, and Neil had gotten in touch with me and said, "Hey, come on out and let's just us go over some songs by ourselves before we do this." And so you know, we went out there, and you know, he knew that you know, we'd be doing a couple of his songs. And I said, "Man, I put these in a medley, you know, and I think they're pretty cool, you know." And I play for. He said, "No, every song has to stand on its own." And so we ended up only doing, I think, two of the songs, Clancy and did we do uh, "Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It?" We didn't do "Flying on the Ground Is Wrong." But anyway, that was just Neil's little quirk. He said every
yeah.
song got to stand on its own. But um, during my, you know, part of my solo stuff, I haven't done it recently, but early on, I put this little medley together, which I thought was pretty cool. But
I've
that's
seen it and it's great.
yeah.
You know, history has shown that Neil is very singular with his vision of how his art is presented. What was your experience in those early days with translating his songs and working with him in how to do that?
You know, I was just they were just given to me and presented to me. We actually did I won't call it auditions, but for like when it got around to Mr. Soul at one time, which Neil ended up singing, but Steven sang it and I sang it, and we all tried, you know, to see how it goes. But on the first record, you know, it was just here are some, here, you do these songs. And I think maybe because of Clancy, that he had already taught me, and I knew that one, you know, as complicated as it was, that the other ones just seemed like more maybe something that I would be, you know, be more conducive to what I, you know, my feel for it. But there was seemed to be no problem with it. I think, you know, Neil obviously wanted to sing his own songs, and I don't blame him for that. And of course, he's got two or three on the first album, and on the second album, the same thing. But the ones that I did, I think he thought I did well,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
I mean, I think today, as I look at it, you know, I think I do them better today than I did back then, because I was developing in a lot of ways back then, you know. I mean, I felt like Steven was a lot further along. I don't think of Neil as that point in time, but I know from just playing with Steven, I just felt like he was certainly a lot further along, and I really look at you know, what I learned from him, especially as we sat together in that little apartment, you know, learning to sing and phrase and harmonize together, and all that time that we spent alone.